Thanks for hanging with us, Allison.
Oh, anytime. Good evening. We're going to talk through mainly water supplies.
Is it evening already?
Yes, it is. I don't know what time it is, but it definitely is evening. Um, My presentation is mainly about water supplies and larger wastewater projects. We've already kind of touched on the water and sewer line replacement projects. Those are College Hills, A&M, MLK, and Randolph that Shane went over. So it's not really about the distribution replacement projects, but more about supply in general. So as of May 1st, we are sitting at 58 months of water supply. This year has been very sad, depressing, whatever you would like to say as far as rainfall goes. And I think the consensus...
You mean there's been no flooding?
No. No drainage, which I know Shane is not a fan of, but I definitely am. And so we haven't seen that runoff, but these calculations do assume a zero inflow scenario. So whatever those lakes are as of May 1st, we assume no additional inflow will come into those reservoirs. How they evaporate over the course of time, CRMWD provides OHIV's numbers. And so then we use those calculations to see kind of how those reservoirs project. And we only factor in, so this does include Hickory, but only about 1.5 million gallons a day. Obviously, we can turn on that system to the 8 million gallons a day right now, soon to be 12. But this is a worst case scenario. So sitting at 58 months of water supply as of May 1st. I like to show this just as our trend. So last year when I was presenting this, it was a very much an increasing trend. We are seeing 2021 drop back down into 12.5 million gallons per day. This is an annual average. So in the winter, sometimes we send out 9, 10 million gallon days, depending on the weather. But in the summer, we can hit 22, 25 million gallons, and that is mainly off irrigation demands. And then how our usage stacks up. So we are primarily residential consumers. So we do have large commercial customers, but we don't have them as a whole across the city. 71% of our water usage does go to residential, and then you can see the breakdown between commercial, institutional, and industrial. We have a very small industrial demand. So we have talked about the Hickory project, and it's been discussed at several council meetings going into this year. These top two pictures are pictures taken last week, so you can see the drill rig is up, mobilized, and it is actively drilling the first well of 5 for this expansion project. The picture on the left is the right-of-way clearing, so those will be our roads and pipelines leading to the well sites. And then the bottom picture is one of the pictures from several years ago when we were marketing the ranch, but it is the main drive into our well field from the head gate. This is the project that will take the Hickory to the full permitted allocation of 12 million gallons per day. Hydro Resources and PLW are the contractors on those projects. And we are working through the additional funding, but a total of $62 million to take this project from the 8 million gallons to 12 and to do the 2 new clear wells. 62 million.
Allison, you've talked about the clear wells a couple of times. Why don't you, just for the benefit of the public, define what a clear well is and what it does?
Okay. A clear well is the final holding area, or the holding storage tank, so to speak, before the pump station, what we call our high service pump station. It's the pump station that sends out water to the extents of the city and throughout all parts of distribution. So whether that water is coming from OHIV or the Hickory, it goes into a very large tank, a 5 million gallon reservoir, which is the clear well, where it undergoes that contact time with chlorine and all the other makeups to basically allow it to meet the regulatory requirements to be pumped and sent out to the distribution system.
They are very, 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 very critical
Yes.
to our water supply.
Yes, and currently we have one large clear well. And so we can only do maintenance on that clear well in the winter months. So we do not have flexibility from right now until probably mid-September to do any sort of maintenance on that clear well, just due to our demands and how fast water is having to be pushed out to the distribution system.
Hence, it's extremely important that we
Yes.
we
the
spend this money on the clear
So the
wells.
clear wells that we're doing for the future are 2 million gallon clear wells. So we can operate one while we do maintenance on the other, and it allows a little bit more flexibility going forward with treatment options.
All right, thanks for the info.
The next large water supply project that we are actively working on is the Concho River Water Supply Project. This one was adopted several years ago. Our permits, there's 2 necessary permits that we need with the state of Texas, TCEQ, to be able to move forward with this project. One is a discharge permit, and the green star you see on the map is our wastewater treatment plant. We've applied for a permit and received admin completion, but it would discharge at the end of that black line that you see. It would travel 7 to 8 river miles following the green path, where the city owns an additional property where the orange star is, where we would take it out and pipe it back to the water treatment plant in the yellow star. Our water treatment plant is a part of the CIP that you saw earlier. You saw, 60 plus, I don't quite remember the millions of dollars tied to it, but the upgrade to that facility to where we could treat by microfiltration and other more modern technologies today versus our conventional surface water treatment plant. So it would produce a better water quality. But the other permit is for the water to be able to follow that green path and for the city to maintain ownership from where we put it in to where we take it out. Today, if we were to just discharge it, it'd become waters of the U.S., and therefore we have no ownership further downstream. Both of those permits or our applications are admin complete, and so just working through the regulatory process, and that can take some time, but we are actively working through that. So how all these projects stack up is for the next 50 years. The blue graph or the blue bar that you see is the full allocation of Hickory. The red is the reliable safe yield from OH-Ivy. And so during the drought of record, this is what we can rely on Ivy from. The little green line that you can see in between red and orange is what we can safely rely ultimately from South Concho River, but it's the South Concho River system between Twin Buttes, Nasworthy, and the river itself from Nasworthy to where our treatment plant is. So it's a very small, reliable yield because Twin Buttes has ultimately gone functionally dry to where we can't get water from Twin Buttes into Nasworthy. And then finally, the orange bar that you see would be once we get the Concho River Water Supply Project online and how that stacks up with projections and demands as we move through the out years. So it is very critical that we move forward with the Concho River Water Supply.
We don't have a time frame on those permits being,
No, ma'am. The state doesn't.
yeah.
They don't give you a exact timeline. And then finally, for the last water supply project that we are still actively working on is the partnership. So we do have the long-term water agreement with Fort Stockton Holdings between the City of Midland, Abilene, and ourselves. And then you see the breakdown between each city and how those water supply contract is being allocated. Switching now from water supply to the Lake Nasworthy Sewer Project. So this is to ultimately increase the capacity at the airport in the Lake Nasworthy area, take lift stations offline so that we can continue to develop and expand in that area. The Texas Historical Commission has approved the alignment, so we have passed that regulatory step, so to speak. And this is the path from the Lake Nasworthy, or I can show it on the next slide. So the blue line you see, this portion, is what we do have THC approval on. We are still working through some other legal issues in this area due to private property issues. But for the backbone and the important critical component and path to getting from the airport in Lake Nazareth area to Chadburn Street has been approved by the Historical Commission. Let me go back. So we are in final design right now, and the final design is due November 10th, and so that is when we will have final design plans, and then we would start putting that out for bid either at the end of the year or the first part of 2023 to begin the construction of that pipeline. So we are looking within the next year or so to begin construction on that project.
When would it officially be available for use?
That would depend. It is probably a 2-year construction window, at least.
Nothing would be online before then?
No, ma'am. No, there could be parts downstream closer to Chadburn, which isn't where our needs are. Our needs are at the furthest extent of this line, which is the airport and Lake Nazareth, the area. But ultimately, you have to have the full system in place. So it isn't like our need is halfway in the middle of that project. It's at the very end. So we do have to complete. We can
start to identify a timeline, and that's key.
Yes, once we can ultimately get it out for construction. Now we are seeing supply chain issues with PVC pipe and pumps and motors, and it's the world we live in today. But we could see some delays there. But ultimately, once we get a contractor on board, I think we're making the next big step to hopefully lining out that timeline to a more definitive time frame for everybody to be aware of.
Questions for Allison at this point, or comments for her? No? Continue.
The last one I have is just an update. The last time I spoke to you all a year ago about the customer service inspectors, I was requesting additional personnel, and so we've now been a year since that last meeting, since that request, and wanted to give y'all an update of kind of how that has progressed. We were able to hire 3 additional employees. We already had reallocated 1 employee to be a dedicated CSI and be the administrator of this program and to kind of lead this effort. So I can say as of April 30th, we have 4 licensed customer service inspectors, and that is a TCQ license. And so one of them does hold a BPAT, so he could test a backflow device if he needed to. But this is kind of the breakdown of the initial inspections they have completed. Ultimately, there's 474 initial inspections in these categories that you see. They have been focusing on commercial industries. We do have to go to residential every once in a while when there is a water well issue or something that we need to go make sure that the city system is protected from their alternative water source. But ultimately, we are making progress here. They have done a presentation at the San Angelo Apartment Association because, as you can see, they went to 110 apartments, and so a lot of those apartment complexes have some owners own multiple apartment complexes, and so kind of educating the apartment association of what we're doing, why we're doing it, things that they're looking for, and it was from the feedback I received, it was well received, and it kind of gave everybody an idea of what was going on. Almost, I think about 90% of these facilities will have to have a re-inspection because there was a deficiency of some sort, whether it's a hose bib vacuum breaker or a TMP drain line that on a hot water heater that wasn't air gapped enough, those type of things, or their fill on their pool was not air gapped. Just different things. They will have to go back for another inspection. So it is not a one inspection and done. It does sometimes take multiple trips to getting these businesses to full compliance. But so far it's been very well received. And this was just to kind of provide y'all an update with the personnel y'all allocated last year to this program. I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
I didn't see restaurants on that list. And since they've been to my place of business, I know that they are doing them.
It may, so these are the ones that they've kind of highlighted, like in industry that they're trying to wholly get, so to speak. But we can look at, we haven't tackled restaurants in an entirety.
Has mine been hit?
I'll ask them about that. This
Yeah.
is just the list that they gave me.
You see, yeah.
See, where's Brenda's? Right
We'll
there.
start with that
Let's
one.
go get her.
Yeah, we're going to put a
And
ticket
so is my
stop right
office
outside,
building.
too.
Allison, thank you very much.